Luke Bennett sat in the captain's chair. Of the Iron Mule, the chair was old and the leather was cracked from years of use. He took a sip of cold coffee from a metal mug. It tasted bitter and stale. Outside the thick glass window, space was dark and quiet. There were no bright stars here, only floating rocks. He was on the very edge of human space. This was the place where ships went missing. It was also the place where valuable scrap could be found. Luke was a salvage mechanic. His job was to find broken ships and fix them or sell the parts. It was a lonely job. He had not spoken to another human being in 3 months. The silence of the void was heavy around him. The Iron Mule was not a pretty ship. It was covered in patches and rough weld marks. It looked like a flying brick made of steel, but it was strong. Luke trusted it more than any new ship from the core worlds. He tapped the console with a gloved finger. The sensors were scanning the asteroid field ahead. Usually the screen showed green dots for rocks. Today there was a sudden blue flash. It was a signal. Luke leaned forward in his seat. He wiped the dust off the screen with his sleeve. It was a distress beacon. It was weak, but it was there. The signal repeated every few seconds. It sounded like a cry for help. He checked the location on the map. The signal came from near a dead moon. The moon was gray and had no air. Many ships had crashed there over the years. Luke engaged the engines. The ship shook as it moved forward through the dust. He was careful. In this sector, distress signals could be traps. Pirates often used them to lure in helpful mechanics. Once a mechanic got close, the pirates would board and steal the ship. Luke checked his weapons locker. They were old, but they worked. He also checked his spacesuit. It was heavy and scratched from previous jobs. He wanted to be ready for anything. As the Iron Mule got closer, the object came into view. It was not a pirate ship. It was not a human ship either. It was sleek and smooth. The metal looked like silver glass. There were no weld lines. There were no engine exhaust marks. It looked like it was grown instead of built. Luke had never seen technology like this. It was far beyond anything humanity could make. The ship was damaged. One side was cracked open. Dark smoke leaked from the hull into the vacuum. It was drifting slowly toward the moon's gravity. If it fell into the gravity well, it would be crushed by the pressure. Luke brought the Iron Mule alongside the strange vessel. He matched its speed carefully. He needed to see if anyone was inside. He put on his helmet and sealed his suit. The air hissed as the pressure equalized. He opened the airlock and floated across the gap. He used a magnetic clamp to attach to the foreign hull. The metal felt warm under his gloves. That was strange. Metal. Space should be cold. He found the airlock door. There was no handle. He used his cutting torch to open the control panel. Inside he found a manual. Override. He pressed it. The door slid open silently. He floated inside the ship. The air was breathable. His suit computer told him the oxygen levels were normal. He turned on his helmet light. The hallway was dark. The walls shimmered with a soft blue light. There were no buttons or switches. Everything was smooth and clean. He moved toward the cockpit. The door was open. Inside, a person was slumped over the control panel. Luke floated closer. It was a woman. She wore a suit that looked like human flight gear, but the material was strange. It shifted color like oil on water. Luke checked her neck for a Pulse, it was weak, but it was there. She was alive. He turned her face toward the light. She looked human, but something was off. Her skin was too perfect. There were no pores or scars. Her hair was dark and floated around her head in the zero gravity. She looked peaceful, but she was not waking up. Luke checked the console behind her. The screens were dark. The power was dead. He realized the life support was running on backup batteries. They would not last much longer. If he did not act, she would die. He had a choice. He could leave her. It was dangerous. The ship could explode. The pirates might still be nearby. If he took her, he might be putting himself in danger. But Luke was a mechanic. He fixed things. He saved things. He could not leave a living person to die in the cold dark. He grabbed her suit and pulled her toward the airlock. She was light, lighter than a human should be. He secured her in the Iron Mule's medical bay. He hooked her up to his own life support systems. Machines began to beep as they monitored her heart. He went back to the cockpit of the Iron Mule. He attached a tow cable to the strain ship. It was heavy, but the Iron Mule had strong engines. He fired the thrusters. The strange ship began to move away from the dead moon. Luke watched the sensors. There were no other ships nearby. For now they were safe. He looked at the monitor showing the medical bay. The woman was still sleeping. He did not know who she was. He did not know where she came from, but he knew he had done the right thing. The space around them was quiet again. Luke set the course for his mobile station. He had a lot of work to do. The medical bay on the Iron Mule was small and cramped. It smelled like antiseptic fluid and old machine oil. Luke sat in a metal chair next to the bed. He was watching the monitors closely. The lines on the screen moved up and down. They showed her heart beating. The woman stirred on the bed. Her eyes opened slowly. They were a deep brown color, almost black. She looked around the room. She did not look scared. She looked confused. Luke stood up slowly. He did not want to startle her. He took off his heavy work gloves. He wanted to look friendly and safe. "You are safe now," Luke said. His voice was rough from disuse. He had not spoken to anyone in a long time. "I found you drifting near the dead moon. Your ship was broken." The woman sat up. She moved very smoothly. She touched her head with a slender hand. "I remember the crash," she said. Her voice was soft and clear. "My name is Nora Vance. I am an independent trader. I was moving goods through the sector when the engine failed." Luke nodded slowly. He did not know if she was telling the truth. Traders did not usually fly ships made of silver glass. Those ships belonged to rich corporations or military groups, but it was not his business to judge. He was a mechanic, not a police officer. "I am Luke Bennett. I run the salvage yard. Your ship is docked outside. It is badly hurt. The core is cracked." Nora looked at him with intense eyes. "Can you fix it?" she asked. "I need to leave soon. I have deliveries to make. People are waiting for me. I can try." Luke said. He scratched his chin. "But the tech is strange. I have never seen parts like that before. It is not human design." Nora reached into her suit pocket. She pulled out a small card. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This is a credit chip. If you fix the drive, I will give you double the amount on this card. It is enough to buy a new ship for yourself. It is enough to retire." Luke looked at the chip. It was more money than he had seen in 10 years of hard work. It would fix the iron mule properly. It would buy fuel for a lifetime. He could finally stop worrying about the next job. He nodded. Okay, I will fix it, but I do it my way. I do not have your tools. Nora agreed. She followed him to the main docking bay. The alien ship sat next to the ugly tug. It looked like a bright jewel next to a gray rock. Luke opened the engine panel. On the alien ship, inside there were no wires, there were no pipes, there were only tall crystals that hummed with energy. They were beautiful and smooth. One of them was cracked down the middle. Dark energy leaked from the break like smoke. Luke frowned deeply. He touched his tool belt. He had wrenches and cutters. He had tape and a soldering iron. None of this looked like it would work here. The alien tech was too delicate. If he tried to copy it, he would break it more. He needed a human solution. Humans did not build perfect things. Humans built things that worked. Even when they were broken, humans were good at making do with nothing. I cannot fix the crystal, Luke said. Honestly, it is dead. The energy path is gone, but I can bypass it. Nora watched him closely. Bypass, she asked. That sounds dangerous. The energy flow must be pure. It is ugly, Luke admitted. He picked up a heavy wrench. But it will work. Trust me. Luke went to his own ship. He grabbed a fusion coil from the iron mule. It was heavy and covered in green grease. It was old and scratched. He brought it back to the alien ship. He cleared a space near the damaged crystal. He used metal brackets to hold the fusion coil in place. He drilled holes into the sleek floor of the alien ship. Nora winced when he drilled. She cared about the beauty of the ship. Luke cared about the function. He did not care about scratches. He ran thick copper cables from the coil to the engine manifold. He used zip ties to hold the wires together tightly. He used electrical tape to seal the connections. It looked messy. It looked like a human had done it. It did not match the smooth walls. It looked like a scar on a perfect vase. The wires hung loose in some places. The coil vibrated when it powered on. Why do you build like this? Nora asked. She touched a piece of gray tape with curiosity. It is not efficient. It is not clean. It looks weak. Efficiency is good, Luke said. He tightened a bolt with a loud click. But survival is better. If this coil fails, I can swap it in 5 minutes with a hammer. If your crystal fails, you are dead. My way is stubborn. It keeps going when it should stop. Humans live in hard places. We build hard things. Nora was quiet. She watched him work for hours. He did not stop. He sweated and cursed. When a bolt stuck, he used a hammer. When a part did not fit, he forced the machine to obey him. It was very different from her people. Her people sang to their machines. They asked the technology to work gently. Luke commanded his technology. He bullied the machine into life. Finally, Luke stepped back. He wiped grease from his forehead. With a rag, the engine hummed loudly. It was a rough sound. It vibrated the floor under their feet. It was not the smooth song of the crystal. It was the growl of a beast. But the power readings on the screen were green. The engine was ready. The ship could fly. It is done, Luke said. He handed her the rag. Try it. Don't blow it up. Nora looked at the mess of wires and tape. She looked at Luke. She saw pride in his eyes. He had taken something broken and made it run. Using scraps, she realized that humans were not weak. They were tough. They did not need perfect tools. they made do with what they had. They were dangerous in their own way. Thank you, Luke, she said. She placed the credit chip on the console. You have saved me. I will not forget this. Luke smiled. It was a rare smile for him. Just doing my job. Don't crash again. Space is big. Nora nodded. She went to the cockpit to test the systems. Luke watched her go. He did not know that his simple fix had done more than start an engine. He had shown an alien queen the strength of humanity. But for now, he just wanted to get paid. He picked up his wrench. There was always more work to do. The iron mule needed paint. The engine needed oil. Life went on, but outside the window, the stars seemed a little brighter. He felt good. He had helped someone. That was enough for today. He walked back to his tug to wait for her signal. The silence of the station felt different. Now it felt less lonely. Luke sat in the captain's chair of the iron mule. The coffee in his mug was cold. He watched the main screen. The alien ship looked ready to fly. The ugly wires he had added hummed with power. He waited for Nora to come out and say goodbye. He wanted to get back to his normal work. The silence of the station was normal for him, but then the alarm broke the quiet. It was a loud screaming sound. Red lights flashed on the console. Luke dropped his mug. It hit the floor with a loud clatter. Coffee spilled on the metal grating. He did not care. He looked at the sensor screen. 3 dots appeared suddenly. They were big dots. They were moving very fast. He zoomed the camera out. 3 large ships came out of the dark space. They were black and sharp. They looked like knives made of dark metal. They did not look like human ships. They did not look like Nora's ship either. They were built for war. Luke felt a cold fear in his stomach. He knew what this meant. Trouble had found them. He grabbed the radio microphone. His hand shook slightly. Nora, you need to leave. There are ships coming. They are big. The airlock door opened with a hiss. Nora stepped into the tug, but she was not the same woman who walked out earlier. Her posture was straight and royal. Her skin seemed to glow slightly in the red alarm light. Her eyes were not brown anymore. They were a bright violet color. They sparkled with power. She looked at the screen and her face became hard. They found me, she said. Her voice was different too. It sounded like many voices speaking at once. It was deep and commanding. Luke stood up. He was confused. He held the radio tight. Who are you? He asked. You said you were a traitor. You said your name was Nora Vance. I lied, she said. She did not sound sorry. She sounded tired. My name is Zyra. I am not a traitor. I am a queen. These ships are rebels. They want to take my throne. They want to kill me too. Start a war. Luke looked at the woman. He looked at the ships on the screen. He was just a mechanic. He fixed engines. He did not fight wars. He lived on the edge of space to avoid trouble. You should have told me, Luke said. His voice was steady. If I knew this, I would not have helped. I'm not a soldier. I know, Zyra said. She walked closer to him. Her violet eyes were intense. You must uncouple your ship. You must run away. If you stay, they will destroy you. You are human. You are not part of this war. Go while you can. Take the money. Save yourself. Luke looked at his hands. They were covered in grease and oil. He looked at the credit chip on the table. It was enough money to retire. He could leave. He could jump to warp and be safe. No one would blame him. He was a civilian, but he looked at Zyra. She was Alone, the rebels had 3 ships. Her ship was fixed, but it was still damaged. It needed a test run. It needed someone who knew the repairs. Luke shook his head. No, he said. Zyra looked surprised. Her eyes widened. You do not understand. They will kill you. Their weapons are strong. I understand, Luke said. He walked to his console. He started typing commands quickly. I fixed that ship. I used my parts. I used my time. That makes it my responsibility. Mechanic does not leave a job half done. If your ship breaks during the fight, I need to be there to fix it. This is not a repair job, Zyra said. She sounded worried. This is a battle. People die in battles. Same thing, Luke said. Something is broken. I need to make it work. I need to make sure it does not break again. He looked at her. Besides, I do not like bullies. 3 ships against 1 is not fair. I hate unfair fights. Zyra stared at him. She had seen many species in the galaxy. Some were brave. Some were smart, but humans were different. They were stubborn. They did not know when to quit. They did not follow rules when rules meant death. She felt a small hope in her chest. What are you doing? She asked. She watched his fingers fly over the keys. My ship has a targeting computer, Luke said. It is old. It is made for mining asteroids, but it is good at tracking moving rocks. I am going to link it to your ship. I am going to link my systems to yours. My ship has advanced AI, Zyra said. It does not need help. It is smarter than your computer. Your AI thinks like a machine, Luke said. It follows rules. It calculates odds. These rebels follow rules too. They expect a normal fight. They do not expect a human fight. He plugged a heavy cable into the port. Sparks flew. The lights flickered. Humans fight dirty. We cheat. We do what we have to do to win. We use tricks. The enemy ships got closer. They were hailing them. The radio filled with static and angry voices. They demanded surrender. They threatened death. Zyra stood tall. She was ready to fight. Alone, but now she had a partner. Luke sat in the pilot seat of the tug. He was not a soldier. He was a man with a wrench and a plan. He locked the docking clamps. The 2 ships were now 1 unit. The Iron Mule was part of the Queen's vessel. Hold on, Luke said. This is going to be a rough ride. My engine is loud. Zyra sat in the co-pilot seat. She watched his fingers move on the keyboard. He was fast. He was changing the power distribution. He was rerouting energy from the lights to the shields. You are risking your life, she said softly for a stranger. Yeah, Luke said. He did not look away from the screen. But I fixed your ship. I want to see it fly. I want to see my work. Hold up. The enemy ships charged their weapons. Blue light gathered at their tips. Luke watched the range finder. He waited. He did not fire yet. He waited for the perfect moment. He was calm. The fear was gone. Now there was only work to do. He was a mechanic, and this was the biggest repair job of his life. He would not let the ship break, not on his watch. He checked the fuel levels. He checked the shield strength. He was ready. The rebels thought they were hunting a queen. They did not know they were hunting a human mechanic, and humans were very hard to kill. The enemy ships did not wait for talk. They fired bright blue beams of energy. The beams cut through the dark space like knives. They moved fast toward the Queen's ship. Zyra tensed in her seat. Her hands hovered over the shield controls. She expected the energy to hit the barriers. She prepared for the impact. She knew Her shields were strong, but she also knew 3 ships were too many. She looked at Luke. He did not look scared. He looked focused. His eyes were on the sensor screen. He did not raise the shields. He pressed a different button. Instead, a cloud of gray dust shot out. From the Iron Mule, it was mining waste. It was rock shavings and metal scraps, left over from salvage jobs. Luke had stored it in the external tanks. Now he released it all. The cloud expanded. Quickly, it floated around the 2 linked ships. It looked like a small storm in the vacuum. The enemy missiles flew into the cloud. Their sensors could not see through the dust. The metal shavings confused their guidance systems. The missiles lost their lock. They spun wildly. They exploded in the empty dark far away from the ship. Bright flashes lit up the dust cloud. Debris floated everywhere. Zyra was surprised. Her eyes went wide. Her people did not use dust. They used clean energy and perfect logic. They believed in order. This was dirty. This was messy. This was human. Luke grinned slightly. He kept his hands on the controls. They cannot track us, he said. We are too ugly. Their computers want clean targets. We give them noise. Luke turned the thrusters on full. The ship shook violently. It did not move. Smooth like an alien ship. Alien ships glided like water. The ship jerked and spun. It moved like a rock falling down a hill. It was unpredictable. The enemy computers tried to predict the path. They calculated the trajectory. They failed. The human pilot was not following logic. He was following instinct. He turned left when he should have turned right. He sped up when he should have slowed down. The enemy lasers missed by inches. They scorched the hull but did not break through. The metal groaned under the stress. Sparks flew from the console. Zyra held onto her seat. She was impressed. She had seen many warriors in the galaxy. They all fought with honor and rules. Humans fought to win. They did not care about style. They cared about survival. Luke was showing her the strength of his species. It was not in their weapons. It was in their minds. They could adapt to anything. They could use trash as a weapon. She looked at the messy wires Luke had installed. They vibrated with the ship's movement. They held strong. The human fix was better than the original design. The fusion coil hummed louder than the alien crystal ever did. It sounded angry. It sounded alive. One ship is open, Luke said. He pointed at the screen. One of the rebel ships had moved closer to attack. It wanted a sure shot, but to get close it had to lower its own shields. Its engines were exposed. The pilot was greedy. He wanted the kill. Fire now, Luke said. His voice was calm. Zyra did not hesitate. She pressed the weapon trigger. Alien cannons fired. Bright white light shot from the tubes. The shot hit the enemy engine. The rebel ship spun out of control. Smoke poured from its hull. It drifted away helpless. The other 2 enemies stopped. They were confused. They did not understand this style of fighting. Their commander hesitated. He tried to recalculate the odds, but humans did not give him time. Now we go, Luke said. He pushed the power lever forward. He routed all energy to the warp drive. The lights in the cabin went dim. The hum of the life support slowed down. It was risky. They might freeze. The air might get thin, but it gave them speed. The engine roared loud. The sound shook their bones. The stars outside stretched out into long lines. The gravity pulled at them. It felt like a heavy weight on their chests. Luke kept his hand on the lever. He did not let go until the jump was complete. The ship jumped into warp space. The enemy ships vanished behind them. The violent shaking stopped. The silence returned. It was quiet again. Zyra looked at Luke. He was breathing hard. He wiped sweat from his face with his sleeve. He looked tired but happy. He checked the screens. His hands moved over the keys to check. The systems, engines are hot, he said. But they hold. My fix worked. The coil did not blow. The tape held the wires together. Zyra felt a deep respect for him. He was just a mechanic. He was not a soldier, but he had fought better than any general she knew. He had saved her life. He had saved her throne. She realized that humanity was not a primitive species. They were sleepers. They were waiting to wake up, and now they were awake. She looked at the messy console. She looked at the human man. She knew things would change in the galaxy. The rebels would tell others about this. They would tell them about the human who fought with dust and scrap. Fear would spread, but for now, they were safe. Luke leaned back in the chair. He picked up his cold coffee mug. He took a sip. He grimaced at the taste. That was close, he said. Next time, let's avoid the warships. I do not have enough tape for another fight. Zyra smiled. It was a real smile. It reached her violet eyes. Agree, she said, but I am glad you were here. You are a good mechanic, Luke Bennett. You are also a good friend. Luke nodded. He looked out the window at the streaking stars. The job was done. The ship was fixed and the Queen was safe. That was all that mattered to him. He was a mechanic and he did not leave a broken job behind. The Iron Mule floated silently through warp space. It carried a secret now. It carried the future of an alliance, but for Luke it was just another Tuesday. The ship dropped out of warp space. Smoothly, the stars stopped stretching and became small points of light again. The violent shaking was gone. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the breathing of the two people in the cockpit. Luke checked the screens. The fusion coil was hot. The temperature gauge was in the red zone, but it held. The tape and wires were still connected. The Iron Mule had done its job. Luke let out a long breath. He leaned back in the chair and closed his eyes for a moment. He was very tired. The fight had taken a lot of energy. Zyra looked at him. Her violet eyes were soft now. The hard look of the Queen was gone. She looked like a person who was grateful. She stood up and walked over to Luke. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm. We are safe, she said. Her voice was quiet. The rebels cannot follow us here. This sector is unknown to them. We are alone. Luke opened his eyes. He looked at the screen. Space was dark and empty. It was the same as always, but everything felt different now. Good. Luke said, I want to go home. I have work to do. The Iron Mule needs paint. The engine needs oil. Zyra smiled. She shook her head slightly. You do not understand, Luke. You have done more than fix a ship. You have saved an empire. If I had died, my people would have fought each other. Millions would have died in the civil war. You stopped that. She walked to the console. She picked up the credit chip she had offered him earlier. She put it back in her pocket. Money is not enough. I cannot pay you with credits for saving a galaxy. Luke shrugged. He stood up and stretched his back. It cracked loudly. I told you. I am a mechanic. I fix things. I do not save galaxies. I just did my job. You paid me to fix the drive. The drive is Fixed, we are even. No, Zyra said. Firmly, we are not even. I owe you a debt. My people believe in balance. If I take a life, I must give a life. If you save a throne, you must be rewarded. She walked to a small panel on the wall. She pressed her hand against it. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a small object. It was not a chip. It was a crystal. It was clear and sharp. It floated in the air above her palm. This is a clearance code, Zyra said. It is linked to my royal signature. If you give this to any human ship, it will mark them. It will tell my fleet that this ship is under my protection. If anyone attacks a human with this mark, they attack me. Luke looked at the floating crystal. He did not touch it. Why would you do that? He asked. Humans are not important. We are just on the edge. We do not matter to your empire. You matter now, Zyra said. Because of you, I have seen how humans fight. I have seen how you build. You do not give up. You use what you have. You protect your own. My empire needs that strength. We have become soft. We rely on perfect machines. You rely on yourselves. I want my people to learn from you. This crystal is a promise. Humanity is no longer alone. You have an ally. Luke took the crystal. It was light. It felt warm in his hand. He looked at it for a long time. He thought about the other mechanics he knew. He thought about the miners and the traders. They all struggled out here. They feared pirates. They feared the unknown. Now they would have protection, not because they were strong, but because one mechanic refused to quit. I cannot go with you, Luke said. He knew what she was going to ask next. I do not belong in a court. I do not like fancy clothes. I do not like politics. I like my tug. I like the quiet. I know, Zyra said. I would not ask you to leave your home. You are a guardian of the edge. You belong here. But know that if you ever call, I will come. If you ever need help, you only have to send the signal. She turned to leave the cockpit. She stopped at the door. She looked back at him. Thank you, Luke Bennett, for the repairs, for the fight, for the friendship. Luke nodded. Safe travels. Zyra, don't crash again. She smiled one last time, then she walked back to her ship. The airlock cycled. Luke watched on the camera as she entered the sleek silver vessel. The engines powered up. The hum was smooth again. The crystal energy was back online. The human repairs had held. The ship lifted away from the Iron Mule. It turned slowly. For a moment, it hovered in the dark. Then it flashed bright. It jumped to warp. It was gone. Luke was alone again. The silence returned to the tug. It was quiet, but it did not feel lonely anymore. He looked at the crystal in his hand. It glowed softly. He put it in his pocket. He walked to the captain's chair and sat down. He picked up his cold coffee mug. He took a sip. It was still bitter. He smiled. He turned the ship around. He set the course for the nearest station. He had to sell some scrap. He had to buy more tape. He had work to do. The galaxy was big and dangerous. There were still pirates. There were still broken ships. But things had changed. Humanity had a friend now, and Luke Bennett had a story to tell, though he probably would not tell it. He was a mechanic. Mechanics did not talk much. They just fixed things. He looked out the window at the stars. They seemed brighter than before. He turned on the radio. Static filled the speakers. He began to tune it. He heard a voice from a distant trader. It was a human voice. Luke keyed the microphone. This is Iron Mule, he said. Sector clear. Proceed with caution. It was a small thing, but it was a start. The iron mule drifted through the dark. It was just a small tug in a big universe, but it carried the weight of a new future. Luke leaned back. He closed his eyes. He slept well that night. He dreamed of smooth engines and quiet space. He dreamed of a galaxy where humans were not just survivors, they were partners, and it all started with a piece of tape and a stubborn mechanic.